I recently read the book by Dr. Weston A Price called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And my biggest takeaway from the book is that most of us likely aren't consuming enough calcium. I had never given it any thought about my calcium consumption until I read this book, and he harped over the subject repeatedly for 500 pages. In the book, he recommends that we consume about 1.2 grams or 1,200 milligrams of sodium per day. And he often talks about sodium and phosphorus in our diets. Now, if you look at calcium, it is the most abundant mineral in our body. It makes up between 1.5 and 2% of our total body weight. Now, if you look at the RDA suggests about 1,000 milligrams per day, and in menopausal women, a higher amount of 1,200 milligrams per day. In the book, he went all over the world, and he looked at tribes of people that had never met the industrialized world. So that they had never eaten a bag of chips, and this was in the 1930s. And he went all over the world. He went to the Swiss Alps, he went to Australia to see the Aborigines. And what he found in the book is that these tribes that had never met the Western world consumed between 2 to 3 times more calcium than the industrialized world, meaning they were consuming between 2,500 and 4,000 milligrams of calcium per day. And what he found is that virtually none of them had any cavities compared to identical genetic folks that lived in cities at the time. So, he had groups of people that maybe lived 20 kilometers apart that were genetically identical. One was eating the native foods, and one was eating the industrialized foods, and found that cavities and tooth decay was much worse in people eating the modern diet that we're eating today. So now, if we look at the 8 foods that are most abundant in calcium, obviously dairy products is huge. Like dairy products has a respectable amount of calcium. Often, obviously it's vilified nowadays because pasteurization obviously isn't as optimal as, say, raw milk is what people are saying nowadays. So that's a high source of calcium. Another option is soybeans, which is even more vilified, I would say, than milk products. Because they're often GMO crops, and they have high estrogen content. So I would say most people don't want to eat soybeans, and probably rightly so. Another major food that has a healthy amount of calcium is dark leafy greens. Dark leafy greens, I would say most people would agree they're quite healthy. So next is calcium fortified foods. So like orange juice and cereals, they're fortified. So basically they add calcium citrate to the food to increase its calcium content. Next is canned salmon. Canned salmon it has a respectable quantity. We're going down the list now. Figs is apparently a food that has a healthy amount of calcium. However, figs, most places in the world, you're not going to find figs, certainly not fresh figs. I'm in Southern Europe right now during fig season, so luckily enough there are fig trees everywhere. So I'm able to consume some figs, but it's really only a short window of 6 weeks or so that I'm able to eat figs. Flour tortillas, they say, is a decent source. Likely it's because it's fortified food. And then canned baked beans, also a decent source. I was a vegan for 4 years, and I probably will attempt to never eat a bean again in my life because they have a tremendous amount of fiber that it isn't pleasant. It isn't pleasant to consume. So one thing that isn't on this list is red meat. I know currently right now it's very popular for people to eat the carnivore diet. But if you're eating the carnivore diet, let's say you're eating 1 kilo of meat a day, or even like a red meat heavy diet, you're coming nowhere close to the daily amount of calcium that you need. This is, in 1 kilo of beef, you're getting 180 milligrams of calcium. So you're nowhere close to what your body, your bones, and your teeth need in calcium. So I would say that even if you're eating a ton of red meat, you need to find a way to get calcium in your body. So the next food is obviously spinach. It's a major category. And so if you ate 1 kilo of spinach, 1 kilogram of spinach, you'll get about 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day. So just to give you an idea of what a kilogram of spinach looks like, it's a huge Costco-sized container of spinach. Undoubtedly, you will have a very sore stomach if you ate that much spinach, or that much greens in general per day. So I would suggest, certainly dark leafy greens is a good source. It's a source of calcium that one could eat, but for the vegans that potentially watch this, you're not gonna get to your daily goal of calcium by eating spinach. It's gonna be painful to get there. The next option is milk. So 1 liter of milk will get you to your daily goal of 1,200 milligrams of dairy. I would say for people who've drank milk, it is possible to consume a liter of milk a day. If you're not lactose intolerant, you probably won't be in crushing pain by consuming it. So it is very doable. So certainly milk and milk products generally, including cheeses, are definitely a good source of calcium where you can meet your daily goal without being in excruciating pain. So next is, since most of the foods are fortified, let's see what they're fortifying it with, right? So most of them are fortifying it with calcium citrate. Calcium citrate is actually relatively cheap. This supplement, you need 2 pills a day to get you 650 milligrams. And a daily supply would cost you, pennies a day, basically. One thing that's important with calcium is that you need vitamin D3 to synthesize, to absorb the calcium. So most of the calcium supplements will have vitamin D in it. So my suggestion for people who are not sure how to get your calcium in, a supplement isn't a horrible idea. If your goal is to get to the RDA, or what Dr. Weston A Price suggested at 1,200 milligrams per day, this is a way to get there. If you had 4 of these a day, your goal is met. You could spread them out throughout the day with your food, right? And this one is actually well tolerated. I've had it also without food, and it's given me personally no distress whatsoever. Everybody knows that that calcium is used in our bones and in our teeth. But what people often don't know is that it's actually used in a lot of processes in the body. So I'll just read this section here. So calcium in the circulatory system is critical for mediating vascular contraction and vasodilation, muscle function, nerve transmission, intracellular signaling, and hormone secretion. Bone tissue serves as a reservoir and a source of calcium for those critical metabolic needs through the processing of bone remodeling. Meaning, if you don't have enough calcium in your diet, your body will be taking them from your bones and from your teeth. So it's probably a good idea to at least attempt to get to the 1,200 milligrams per day. So this is relatively new information to me. I only read the book a month ago or 2 months ago, and I've been supplementing for about 6 to 8 weeks now with 600 milligrams of calcium citrate per day. Please let me know in the comments if you have a better idea of how to get to 1,200 milligrams per day. What am I missing here? I know raw dairy is an option that many people will say is a good option, but it's very difficult to find. In Europe, it's extremely difficult to find. So please share your comments. If I got anything wrong here, please let me know.